Hi, this is Adrienne, the Nutrition Heretic, and welcome to day 6 of the Reset Your Body Health Challenge. Today, we're going to talk about a subject that confuses a lot of people. It's a subject that is perhaps up for debate by some people, but usually those are the people who are not in the know. I'm going to share with you some things that you may not have heard about the fats. And in particular, I want to talk about saturated fats because, believe it or not, they are really the preferred fuel of every cell in your body. They cannot function without fats and cholesterol. And just to illustrate, I know that I mentioned before, and you can go back a few days and listen to the video where I talk about the muscles needing fat to as their preferred fuel to burn. The organs, particularly the heart, which is encased by saturated fat, and it's supposed to be that way. If you don't consume enough, you will eventually have a heart attack, and it's not uncommon for people who avoid animal fats to have heart attacks. In fact, they have much higher rates of heart attack. The liver and the gallbladder depend on this. People who've had gallbladder surgery will often blame the real fats, but when you look in a supermarket, you'll see that there aren't very many real fats available. They're mostly these clear vegetable oils that don't look like anything you'd ever see in nature, and they're really not something that your body understands even how to metabolize. Your brain, if you suffer from depression or perhaps schizophrenia, all of these brain disorders, ADHD, autism, the saturated fats are very important. In fact, I recently heard of doctors, very mainstream doctors, in fact, who are treating epilepsy with saturated fats, almost pure saturated fat diet, because it does calm the brain, and your brain will get excited if it's not given the food that it wants. Next, your intestines. Think about all the allergies that are so prominent today, particularly gluten intolerance, with which seems like everybody is suddenly affected by. Well, if people would consume more of the saturated fats that their intestines need to keep their integrity, perhaps we would see quite a decline in these types of disorders. And it is true that across the world, where people have remained close to the natural fats, these types of disorders no longer exist. Lubrication and moisturizing. Your mucous membranes really need those fats as well. And if you think again about allergies, hay fever in particular, bronchitis, all of these inflammation of the lungs in particular, think about how fats, if people would eat more fats, how these disorders would cease to exist. They just would not be able to even irritate the lungs and the nasal passages with adequate fats in the diet. But the saturated fats are also very important for mineral and vitamin absorption, in particular the fat soluble vitamins. Uh, you cannot use any of those without saturated fats. It also keeps your hunger at bay. I recently had someone who was complaining to me that she didn't understand why she was hungry every hour and a half to 2 hours. And when I talked to her about her diet, I found out that the only fat that she would even permit herself to eat, and then she felt guilty about it, was avocado. She suffered with an autistic child, and she was, like I said, she was ravenously hungry. She had a secondary infertility. And once she started eating fats, she got pregnant. She was able to go 3 and 4 hours before needing to eat again. And she even saw some differences in her child's behavior. And besides which, fats, they taste great. They make food worth eating. There is a reason why they're there, and you should not feel guilty if you enjoy the taste of fat because it is there to make food a pleasure. So the best ones we've talked a little bit about before: butter, preferably from pastured sources; lard, also preferably from pastured sources; and this could also be, well, they're not technically saturated, but duck fat, um, tallow, which comes from beef and lamb. Actually, that is saturated, even more saturated than lard, actually. And then, chicken fat, schmaltz can be used. Coconut oil, that's a great saturated fat from a vegetable base, and we see that very much throughout Asia, particularly in countries like India and the Philippines. And it has fantastic antimicrobial and antibacterial properties, so it's very helpful for people who are suffering from yeast conditions. Extra virgin olive oil and sesame oil are also very good ones to use, although I try not to heat them very much because they are unsaturated, which means that they become very volatile at high temperatures. So they should be kept, as close to room temperature, or at least gently warmed, instead of actually using them to fry in, for example, because that will cause what they call free radicals, known to potentiate cancers. And then these last two, pine nut oil and cod liver oil, are more like supplements. Pine nut oil originates from Siberia, actually, and it has been known to provide some really wonderful health benefits of all types, including some of the ones that we talked about before. And cod liver oil is very high in vitamins A and D, and that is important really for so many things. From many of the things we talked about before, like depression, allergies, autistic children do phenomenally on it, and it's really something that should be in everybody's cabinet. So how much do you take? Well, you know, you eat what comes naturally with your meats. That's where you can start first. But if you need to saute, for example, string beans, put butter on it. Put as much as you want. You know why? Because your brain actually has sensors, just like it has sensors for protein in the form of meat. Uh, it will tell you when to stop. When you first start doing this, especially if you've been depriving yourself for years and years, you may find that you can't get enough and you just want more and more and more. Well, if that's the case, I would say just go with it, because that initial need is your body's instinct kicking in, saying that I need this thing to uh, be happy again. Once those needs are met and the adrenals calm down and your body feels more at peace, you will instinctively start to cut back on them. So I would not be afraid. And really suggest that you don't be afraid of fats, because they are your friends and they can make your life so much happier. You would be really surprised. So please do ask questions if you have any. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.